Hey everyone, welcome back to Real Literature and Random Videos by Neha Sultana. In today's video, I'll be reading Functions of Criticism at Present Time by Matthew Arnold. So this particular text is prescribed in Critical Theory subject of third semester of Masters of Arts, and I'm following the syllabus of Gulbarga University. So before I begin my video, I would like to say if you're new here, then please make sure to subscribe to my channel for amazing content. So let's begin. Introduction. Matthew Arnold was a poet, critic, and one of the most significant writers of the late Victorian period in England. He occupies a prominent place in the history of literary criticism. His essay, The Function of Criticism at the Present Time, was published in his first collection of critical writing. In his essay, Arnold states that criticism should involve sharing ideas without bias, making an unbiased effort to explore and promote the best known, best knowledge and thoughts globally. Arnold starts his essay by saying one of the literature of France and Germany, as of the intellect of Europe in general, the main effort for now many years has been a critical effort. The endeavor in all branches of knowledge, theology, philosophy, history, art, science, to see the object as in itself it really is, and adds false and malicious criticism had better never been made. Here, Arnold explains the basic task of any critic. According to him, a critic must perceive any object, which means work, as it is without thinking about the other conditions. Thus, for him, the text should be the whole, and a critic should never take the help of any other for its explanation. In the next line, he condemns the false criticism, which is not original and is biased. Arnold believes that the creator of a text is greater than its critic, because creative activity is the true function of man. However, it is the critic who draws the true meaning of that particular work of literature. According to Arnold, for a production of a great literary work, the power of a man and the power of movement, that is, climate of a great ideas, must conquer. If any one of them is absent, then a great work of literature will never be produced. To explain this, Arnold takes the example of two poets, Goethe and Byron. Both Goethe and Byron had a great productive power, yet the work of Goethe is more productive than that of Byron, because the former had a rich cultural background which the latter lacked. Similarly, Shakespeare was not a deep reader. His fame and glory were only because of his age had a climate of great ideas. Next, he says that the French Revolution, with its writers like Rousseau and Voltaire, was more powerful than the English Revolution of Charles, of great ideas of Renaissance. However, the English Revolution is though practically less successful than the French Revolution, yet it is better than the latter, as it appeals to an order of ideas which are universal, certain, permanent. French Revolution, quitted the intellectual sphere and rushed into the political sphere, thus losing its universal application. The works written on the French Revolution are though great and well appreciated, yet they are biased, as they combine politics with thought. Use of disinterestedness. Having explained this, Arnold moves towards the nature of critic, his thinking and his work. According to him, a critic must maintain a position of disinterestedness. He explains the task of a critic in a threefold way. First, a critic must know about life and the world before writing anything, and see the things as they are, ना कि अपना दिमाग में जो आया वो. Second, he should promote his ideas to others and make the best ideas prevail in society. Third, he must create an atmosphere for the creation of the genius of the future by promoting these noble, honest, and true ideas. Arnold criticizes the literature produced during the Victorian age. According to him, there is a failure of criticism due to the division of society and intellectuals into small political and religious groups that makes them incapable of seeing things in their true states. So he cites the example of various works of literature which were written to promote the writer's own political agendas. Example, the Edinburgh Review represents views of the Whigs. The Quarterly Review represents views of Tories. The British Quarterly Review represents the views of political dissenters, and the Times represents the views of the rich Englishman. Arnold says that criticism must maintain its independence from the practical spirit and its aims. It must express dissatisfaction even with well-meant effort of the practical spirit if in the sphere of the ideal they seem lacking. It must be patient and not hurry on to the goal because of its practical importance, know how to wait and know how to attach itself as well as withdraw from things. So this is it for today's video. I hope this video is very helpful for you all, and please make sure to subscribe, and see you in the next video.